After going through and analyzing and breaking down the entire draft class for the New York Giants in 2023, I really came to the realization that this was the perfect draft scenario for the Giants this season. I'll tell you why. Hi guys, going on 27 Squad, welcome back into another video. And after doing this breakdown and recap of the New York Giants draft class, you guys can check the card up above, or it'll be on this side up above of my video on doing that. And it's in depth, it has film, has strength, weaknesses, grades, all of that. After doing all of that, it really made me come to the realization that this is the perfect draft scenario or draft plan that the New York Giants had. Now, does it mean that it's the best draft ever? No, but under the circumstances, under where the players were, where the value fit, Joe Schoen just put on an absolute masterclass, and it's hard to stress that. I am critical when I need to be. I'm not one to just go gung-ho on whoever is a New York Giant and just support them immediately without having criticisms. I criticized Joe Schoen's prior draft, his first draft. I love the 2 first-round picks, but my grandmother could have made those 2 first-round picks. I was very critical of everything else. Wandale, Flott, bunch of picks in there that were pretty head-scratching just by where the value fit. So don't think that I'm just like gung-ho on Joe Schoen and I'm just going to love everything he does. The fact that I really think this is a perfect draft scenario really says something. First off, the Giants addressed their 3 biggest needs in the 3 first rounds. Now, they traded up in 2 of those rounds to get the player that they wanted, but they addressed 3 of their biggest needs they had on the team. Now, there was a poll that really caught my interest and really kind of helped me kind of formulate this video, kind of think about this, by Honestly DG, formerly known as the Dave Gettleman account. He put up this poll saying, would you have rather wanted the original draft, how it was in the first 3 rounds, or would you like it switched up a bit and had the Giants drafting Flowers, then JMS, and then Kelee Ringo as an example? And it was overwhelmingly the original. Now, if the Giants had it any other way and they drafted Zay Flowers or any wide receiver for that matter, they would have to trade up a lot higher than they did, obviously, to get Deonte Banks. They only went 1 spot, but to get these wide receivers who all fell off the board consecutively right before the Giants did, they would have to at least get ahead of the Vikings. Then there's as high as the Seahawks. Obviously, it would cost more to trade up to get another wide receiver, and all of those wide receivers, to be honest with you, as far as caliber level goes, as far as what those wide receivers are worth compared to as what Deonte Banks is worth at the cornerback position, it's fairly similar. Deonte Banks is just as good as a corner as any of those wide receivers are at the wide receiver position. So to just give up a 5th and 7th round pick to move up 1 spot to get Deonte Banks, who again is on the same caliber level as any of those wide receivers are at their respective positions, is a win to me. Now, center in round 2 was an absolute must. I don't know where you could have gone anywhere else besides center. Obviously, if there was a guy that slipped up from the first round all the way to the second, you're going to be talking about possibly taking that player. If a guy like Brian Branch were to fall all the way to the Giants, probably think about taking him, even though you have Deonte Banks. It's just a value sort of thing. You have to project with the value. And then obviously in round 3, you would have to switch up and take a corner. Kelee Ringo is the example that DG put, but you can go down the list. Here are the corners that were available in round 3 if the Giants needed to take a corner. And the most notable names were Mekhi Blackmon, Jacorian Bennett, who was also a Maryland corner, the number 2 corner over there. So you would obviously get a downgrade. Kelee Ringo and Clark Phillips, who's a very undersized slot corner. So the pool of cornerbacks to choose in round 3 were not that great, with hindsight being 2020. And if you compare the caliber of the wide receivers in their respective positions, like we did in the first round with Deonte Banks at corner and any of the wide receivers at the wide receiver position, if you do the same thing in round 3, if you look at the caliber of the cornerbacks to choose from in round 3, they do not even come close to what Jalen Hyatt is as a wide receiver at his respective position. The Giants quite possibly have 3 immediate starters at each position in the first 3 rounds. Not to mention that both of these guys were projected to be taken with the 25 pick in respective mock draft. And if not all of them are starters, they are definitely going to be playing a role in this year and for future years to come. Deonte Banks may not start day one, but I could definitely see it happening very, very soon. If it isn't day one, Jalen Hyatt may contribute as a role player at first because of his, obviously, his route running ability, but he is going to be having a specific role on this team, and they are going to be making plays for him. And then we could talk about the draft picks, right? The draft picks that we gave up. In total, we gave up a 4th round pick, 128th. That one probably hit the most, or hurt me the most. But then we have the picks that we traded up to go up one spot in the first round, which is the fifth round pick and a 7th round pick. By the way, we still had another 5th round pick and more 7th round picks after that, so it's not like we were completely taken out of those rounds. We had other picks to fall back on. The 4th round pick kind of hurt because it's obviously a higher pick, and we did not have another 4th rounder, but I'm completely okay with that. The Giants do not need to compile this team full of developmental players. We are past being a rebuilding team. Although we thought this was going to take a lot longer than usual, we are in the thick of it now. We are in competition for the NFC East. We made the playoffs last year. This team is starting to get off to a really, really good start, and we have to keep going from here. We have to stop having this mindset of getting as much late round draft picks as we can so we can develop them. That's just what rebuilding, losing teams do, and I know we've been that for the past 10 years, but we have to break out of that. Quality over quantity is what needs to be sort of acknowledged when you have a successful team. If I have 4 draft picks every year, but I hit on every single one of those draft picks, I don't think anybody is going to be complaining that we only have 4 draft picks a year. And to be honest with you, going through the years, like Cleveland Browns and a lot of these losing teams who always have like 11 picks to make in a draft, they wind up not even hitting on any of those picks. I don't know if it's because they have a lot of picks and they feel like they can just throw out draft picks and throw out flyers on guys that take a chance on, but usually teams that have a lot of picks, they do not hit on any of them. And then my last thing to address, I know a lot of people really wanted a linebacker out of this draft, really wanted another tight end out of this draft. And although those things could have happened, or maybe even another interior lineman, which I could have liked, but I love the way the draft planned out, especially in the back half. Eric Gray is a guy that can be used on all 3 downs, and he's not just a scat back. He's a guy that can be used on all 3 downs, and you're not going to have a roadblock when bringing in a guy like Eric Gray and saying, oh, well, he can't do this, he can't do that. He can do everything. He just doesn't have breakaway speed. But when it comes to linebacker and tight end, I didn't really care for drafting a linebacker in this draft at all. I even actually said it in a YouTube video in the YouTube comments. Somebody was commenting under my mock draft and asking me, hey, why don't you have a linebacker being drafted in this mock draft? I said, hey, to be honest with you, linebacker is very crowded. Although the pool of guys there is not great, it is very crowded. If you don't hit linebacker in the first couple of rounds, you might as well not hit it at all. You could try to take a flyer on a guy and see if he works out, but obviously he's probably not going to be better than any of the guys already on the roster, and these guys are already familiar in their systems. He's probably not going to take a spot for them. You're basically wasting a pick, and for the sake of addressing the position, you just wasted a draft pick. And then tight end, a lot of people wanted us to target tight end earlier in the rounds as well, mid-rounds, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. I wasn't opposed to it, but I really didn't care for it because, first of all, if you drafted a tight end high, especially like somebody was saying like Michael Mayer in the first round, if he was there, I've heard people say that. I don't like that at all. We already have Waller, we have Bellinger. Just dedicating another high round pick to a tight end will almost forcibly put us in a position where we kind of have to go in 13 personnel constantly just to get the most out of our draft picks and the most out of our investment to the tight end position. I'm always for building depth. I'm always for having the best guys out there. Doesn't matter, you can never have too many of a player. I get that, but dedicating a lot of time, effort, and money and draft picks into a certain position like tight end is a little bit useless if you're not going 13 personnel all the time, and I just don't see the Giants being that kind of team. So how the draft shaked out, I really love everything that the Giants did. I think it was the perfect draft scenario. I don't know if they knew that all the chips were going to fall the way they did, but man, they just absolute masterclass. On top of that, you have Jalen Hyatt. When they traded up for Jalen Hyatt, the Cleveland Browns drafted Cedric Tillman, the other Tennessee receiver, who is very similar to Jalen Hyatt. the pick right after. So it was Joe Schoen with the wits and the smarts to get right ahead of the Cleveland Browns and take their guy that they wanted, because it's like they almost knew Cleveland was going to go Hyatt. That is why the Giants had the best possible outcome to their 2023 draft. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. What do you guys think? If the draft shook out in your favor, what would you want to happen in this draft? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video.